Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the family, I'd like to welcome you all here to this memorial and celebration of the life of Robert Douglas Heath. For those who don't know me, I'm Dylan Smith. I had the privilege of growing up in Zinkwazi Beach and getting to know the Heath family. I've shared many hours in the surf with Rob. Fortunately, some of those were on our trip to the Maldives early this year. I've had countless John's breakfasts together, experienced Rob's late night Boston's pickups in the Chef Lumina. And in case you were wondering, no, I'm not Kirsty's second husband. That's the birthday boy married. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "It's not the length of life, but the depth of life." And this crowd gathered around here today is a reflection of the depth of Rob's life and the impact that he had on the community. Rob was a man of not too many words, so we will try and keep this short and sweet, but I just quickly want to run through some of the formalities. In terms of the house rules, please make sure that your cell phones are off or on silent, just to help with distractions. For those who aren't familiar with the Downward Country Club, welcome again. In terms of the bathrooms, there's a ladies just to the side here on the right, a gents in the billiards room in the bar, and then also towards the kitchen down the galley, there's bathrooms on the left. Drinks will be covered by a tab today, so please enjoy and celebrate on Rob. We will be screening the rugby here afterwards for those who want to stay for the game, and we'll have a curry to be served afterwards for dinner. On behalf of the family, I just want to offer a very big thank you to everybody for their love and support that they've poured out during this week. An event like this doesn't happen by itself, so thank you to each and every person who's put in a special effort to make it happen. And for all the ladies who work tirelessly to bring eats and feed all of us, we thank you very much. Just to give you a quick overview of the proceedings, I'm going to do an opening prayer and then read a poem that the family have asked me to read. Following this, we'll have the speakers. There'll be Barry Milstead, Polly Druckerberg, Grantley Reed, Lou Todd, Jenna, Guy, and then Kirsty. To end off, we'll have a slideshow celebrating the life of Rob. Black Rock is a special surf spot in Zinkwazi, and recently I broke my board about 2 weeks ago, and I was gingerly walking back to the parking lot when Rob sped in on his pookie at the top. "What happened here?" he said to me with a wry smile. I proceeded with my sob story to tell him how it should have been my last wave if only I hadn't gone left, and how I missed my board. Without skipping a beat, Rob replied, "You can't live on should-haves and if-onlys. It is what it is, you just have to accept it and move on." So I ordered my new board when I got home. So thank you, Rob. Rob was a true man of the ocean. It was a place he respected and he shared a deep connection with. It's a connection that can only be understood if it's experienced. And I think the lyrics from a song by the band Native, the song is called Ocean, speak to this connection. It goes, "I'd rather see the ocean once in a lifetime than miss it for the rest of my days, then never feel the sand beneath my naked feet and never hear the sound of breaking waves." For any ocean goer enduring a storm, a lighthouse is a beacon of hope and safety. Rob was a man who lived as a lighthouse. George Bernard Shaw said, "I can think of no building constructed by man as altruistic as a lighthouse. They are built only to serve." Rob's character of love, compassion, trust, joy, and good-heartedness were his rays of faith shining out to the world to serve. Evangelist D.L. Moody adds, "Lighthouses don't fire cannons to call attention to their shining. They just shine." This was the extra brightness of Rob's unending service. He did it authentically, unselfishly, without any expectation of recognition or reward. The book of Proverbs in chapter 27, verse 19 says, "As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart." I know that you'll all agree with me today that we are here to celebrate a life and a man who had a heart of gold as big as the ocean itself. Please will you bow our heads as we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessing of this day. God, we thank you for the time and opportunity to be together and celebrate the life of Rob. Thank you for the blessing of the wonderful man that he was to family, friends, and community. We lift him up to heaven to join you, Father, and the angels for eternity. We look to you for strength, hope, and love, and we pray especially for the family. Grant them peace and courage in this difficult time. We pray that Rob's light will shine on through us in memory and love for generations to come. We pray this in your Son, Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen. I'm now going to read a poem that's special to the family. It was special to Rob and Maureen, and I think it'll be special to each one of us here today. The poem is titled The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came his date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now, only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So, think about this long and hard. Are there changes you'd like to make? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a little while. So, when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I'm going to call up Barry to begin the speaking, please.
Okay, can you guys hear me? It's a privilege to be asked to say a few words about a very good friend of over 50 years and a wonderful man. Trevor met Rob on Salt Rock Main Beach in, we think, the year 1969. And it wasn't long after that I was introduced to him. We soon became firm friends, a thoroughly likable guy. His love of life, sense of humor, boundless energy, and always up for anything going. His mode of transport, can I just move this? Thank you. Okay, cool. His mode of transport at the time was an old Land Rover, camouflage and cover, and which very seldom had its hood on. His love of the sea was already entrenched. The surfboards were long and heavy, with no leashes, with lots of long swims involved. Rob took to surfing like a duck to water. He loved the waves, the bigger the better, and was known for his fearlessness in big surf. This reputation stayed with him until very recently. Rob's material needs in those days were simple: line ale, which he certainly made famous. Any food was okay. Bread and jam, a luxury. Clothing pulled off the top of the washing pile. Fashionable was just a word. Maybe it's only the line ale that changed. The early 70s were wonderful days. There was a great crowd of young guys around, and Rob was admired and liked by all. Salt Rock Club, Balali, Figapooza, Salt Rock Hotel, and the Umhlali Country Club were our ports of call, and Rob could easily be traced to any one of these by his Land Rover. After a surf and several beers at the old Salt Rock Club, we would race each other back to the Lali. In that Land Rover, he never did too well, even though it was a dirt road in those days. One afternoon, Bray Heenan arrived at the club in a brand new Ford Escort 1300 GT. Sure to win. However, while in the club, someone stretched two of his spark plug leads around. Bracey couldn't believe it. He was even beaten by Heath's Land Rover. Not many people know that Rob's dad was a British Lion. Rob's rugby career was nowhere as illustrious. In fact, I think he only played one game. At the time, some of us were playing rugby for Stanger, and we were short of players to play against Impangeni Rail in Impangeni. One can imagine the caliber of the opposition. To his credit, he played, but he never arrived at Monday's practice. Rob, apart from being a very good mate, was a gentleman, kind, reliable, generous, and with his lovely sense of humour, was loved by our older generation as well. My mother especially, as he consumed large helpings of her food. Rob started farming in Umhlali on the Weber farm, under the eagle eye of Theo Wise, who was well known for his fiery nature. It was obviously good grounding, as proved by his subsequent successes in agriculture. It was at this time Rob found his second love, the land. He loved being out in the fields, ploughing, planting, or whatever activity was required. He was always outdoors on the land and learned to respect it. These wonderful days could not continue forever, and the bachelor gang started to shrink as members found serious partners and made plans to settle down. Rob was no exception. Met more, and the rest is history. It was at this stage Rob found his greatest love, his family. His attributes took him naturally to being a wonderful husband and father, and later grandfather, much loved by all. Sadly, he lost more, but continued to be what he was, and kept his family together. They remained close and became the success they are today. As his friend, he was extremely proud of you all. As his friends, all of us are here for you and will be there for you. Grace and I've just skipped a line. Rob was a wonderful partner and companion to Lou. Grace and I have been fortunate to have had a lot of good times with Rob and Lou. We have shared some wonderful experience. Both of them good company, easy and enjoyable to be with. Rob didn't get hassled easily. A 2-hour wait at the border for his visa. A 700 rand fine when a wine was found. Didn't seem to faze him. One thing did emerge though. His cooking skills had not improved over the years. And him and Peter Hatch nearly burnt the Lagoga cottage down cooking lamb chops. Whenever we were going near the sea, Rob always brought a ski along, be it his wave or fishing ski. He told me a couple of times, when he goes, he wants to go in the sea. Rob, your wish was granted. On one of our trips to Lagoga, the weather was particularly unkind. Rob had taken his fishing ski up, and Yama named it the Olympic flame because it never went out. Well, sadly, our Olympic flame is finally out. Rest in peace, my friend.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I was asked by the family to share a few fishy stories about Rob. Here's a 40-year summary. Rob went by many names. Rob, Robbie, Robert, and by his fishing mates, Big Red, Sir Rob, Thrush, Coelacanth, Oriental Sweet Lips, don't ask me why, Salty Sea Dog, and Old Salt. But the one that encapsulates him the most, that I think, was the one that was given to him by his labourers. Amandla Gijima. This loosely translated is power, strength, and speed. Did you ever see Rob jumping in and out of his Land Cruiser? 2 seconds in and half a second out. Rob and I worked well together as a contractor and complemented each other with our different styles of operation. When times got tough, Rob would always say, "Hey Bull, don't worry, we've been here before, it will be okay." We went on many fishing trips together, stretching from the Transkei in the south to the mighty Zambezi in the north, and everywhere in between. Rob's fishing career began on the iconic Titanic with a 15 horsepower motor. When the bigger boats would run for home, scared of the big swell, fearless Rob would be heading out to sea and come home with hatches full. Amandla Gijima. Another memorable event was when Doug Tweedy caught a 700-pound marlin at Vidal. With no way to get it back to Durban, Rob and Bruce Galloway offered or suggested that they put it on the deck of Titanic as they were on their way home. With 2 meters of tail sticking out the back, another meter of nose fin on the front, it must have been quite a sight to see them on the N2 as they headed back home. Rob later updated to Lutubaba with 2x40 horsepower motors. He was on fire. He called me up one morning and asked me if I wanted to go fishing. We headed south from Sinkwazi and were fishing off Jexes. When the west came through, I suggested we go home, and he replied, "Don't worry, Bull, the bigger the swell, the better." When we finally got going, he said, "Look at this, what a downwind," and proceeded to surf the swell all the way home, fearless and skillful. Amandla Gijima. I recall one time in particular, I was out with John Osborne at Santa Maria, and quite a long way out, when the swell started to pick up. We thought it best to pack our bags and head for home. When out of the blue, Rob popped up on his jet ski. We advised him that he should follow us home, as it was getting very rough. But instead, he said he would stay out a while longer, and only come looking for him if he wasn't back in an hour and a half. Amandla Gijima. On another trip to Santa Maria, the team had spent a long morning on the water. About 7 boats were all lined up on the beach, and we were all retiring to Lucas's famous restaurant for lunch, all except Rob. Next minute, we saw Rob on his jet ski, racing to get to the beach, and as he hit it, it came to a complete stop. If he was in a springboard competition, he would have taken the gold. He did a full somersault, a few twists, and landed on his feet, and calmly said to us and some of the onlookers, "Hi guys, sorry I'm late." Later that day, now on the way home and fully refueled, courtesy of Lucas, Sir Rob decided to take a shortcut. He chose not to follow the channels and ended up stranded on a mudbank. He was forced to isolate and ponder his bad decision for about 4 hours, waiting for the tide to come in. On our numerous family trips to Mozambique, Rob, now downgraded to a paddle ski, still fulfilled his role as camp provider, as we never went without fish. This is just a tip of the iceberg of the many good times we had with Rob. And to think of all this, he did it without a skipper's ticket. Never ever. As Laurel Reed has always claimed for our group of friends, we are not related, but we are family. Hamagahle, mhlobo wami. Go well, my friend.
Cobra. Rob and I have been friends for the past 35 years and shared, amongst other things, our love for the ocean. Rob was one of those genuine old school guys. He was a humble man who always had a smile on his face. He was a true friend who, in all the time that I knew him, never said a bad thing about anyone. He loved his family and Lou above all else, but a close second was his love for the ocean. Rob loved to surf, as you heard. He loved fishing, diving for crayfish, and occasionally he'd ride his jet ski. He even took up kite surfing for a very short time. At 76 years old, he was still fearless, and he would push the boundaries so hard that he turned every sport he did into a blood sport. It was a standing joke between myself and his family that every time he entered the water, he would come out bleeding. On one of his fishing expeditions, Rob was loading a cooler into the hatch of his ski when the fish jumped and the spare hook on his rapala went deep into his hand. He was now attached to a jumping fish, which he was trying to hold with his other hand to keep still. He eventually got the hook out of the fish's mouth, put the fish in the hatch, and then paddled 2 kilometers through the surf to the beach with one treble in his hand and the other one dangling precariously between his legs. Ironically, Rob didn't really eat fish. He would catch them, gut them, fillet them, and then deliver them to his friends. That's just the kind of guy he was. When Guy was about 15, he started kite surfing. So one afternoon, Rob decided to take him to the Tugela mouth to practice. Guy practiced for a while, and then Rob decided that it was his turn to fly. He put on the harness and launched the kite. The kite rose into the sky, and true to Rob's form, a strong gust of wind arrived. Lifted Rob 10 foot into the air, dumped him 30 foot down the beach, out for the cut. That was Rob's kiting career over. Thank goodness. On another occasion, Rob was on holiday with the Milsteads in Mozambique, and Bully's touched on this already, but this was another occasion. And he decided to impress his lovely partner Lou with his jet ski skills. He launched the ski, went out and put an impressive display of wave jumping. When he decided that Lou would be suitably impressed, he returned to the beach. He came flying through the shore break. The ski hit the sand. Instead of sliding, it came to an abrupt stop. Unfortunately, Rob had forgotten the script by now. So he went flying over the handlebars, rolled up the beach, and came to a stop at Lou's feet. More blood and another trip to the hospital. The high point of all this wasting time in the water came in March this year, when Rob and I were privileged to be invited by the young crew of Sinkwazi Service to join them in the Maldives. We had the most perfect 10 days on a beautiful boat, traveling around the most stunning islands, surfing 6 hours a day, diving, fishing, and generally having fun together. We had one really big day of surf when we were there. This was the day that our 76-year-old salty dog decided to paddle out. On his way out, he just sneaked over a massive set. This did not deter him. He just carried on. A few minutes later, even a bigger wave landed right in front of him. He turned around and it devoured him, sending him right into the coral reef, lost his ski and had to swim breaststroke, or maybe a 76 was side stroke, over the coral reef into the lagoon behind before he could be rescued. How he survived this intact is a mystery to all of us. Rob absolutely loved the trip. He couldn't get over the beauty of the place. He was fascinated by the colors of the water, the abundant sea life, and the hundreds of tiny little palm-fringed islands with white coral beaches. He loved being on the boat with Guy and all the young guys who had grown up in his house, in and out of his house at Sinkwazi. Murray more in than out. He had finally found his paradise. Guy, Chris, Dylan, Sean and Murray, thanks for including the old buddies in this trip of a lifetime. We enjoyed it immensely and we cherished the moments having Rob with us through the whole trip. Robert, we miss you. The lineup at Blackrock will never be the same. In your own words, it is what it is. Now we must just get on with it.
About the same size, bro.
Don't you dare look.
Thank you for all those wonderful words. Robert Douglas Heath, the love of my life, my soulmate, and my absolute bestie. He was also affectionately known as Robbie, Bobs or Bobo by the grandchildren, Roberto, Herr Heath, by Grazia, Shad Boy, Big Red and Salty Sea Dog by Neil, and Manda Gajima by the staff. I met Rob 12 years ago on a blind date, arranged by Jenna and Amy, my daughter-in-law. And to this day, they still say we owe them big time. Their matchmaking skills were out of the top drawer, because Rob and I just hit it off from day one. Robert was the most amazing man. He loved life and he certainly lived it to the full, especially in the early days, as Barry said. Rob was adventurous and always wanted to travel and explore and experience new places. Africa was deep in his heart, and our trip to 7 African countries 5 years ago bear testimony to that. We shared our love of the ocean, and he was more than happy to come to Madagascar with me on a scuba diving trip very soon after I met him. Thank you, Rob, for your generous nature and for always making me feel so loved and special. You grounded me and taught me that you don't always have to be perfect. You allowed me to make us a beautiful home in Sangwazi, where I always felt safe and secure. Your easygoing nature and naughty sense of humour was like a breath of fresh air. It is what it is. Or another shit day in Africa. We loved and laughed hard. We built up incredible happy memories which we'll never be able to replace. And in all the years we were together, I never ever saw you angry, except when your cell phone didn't work properly. Or you had sent a silent message. Rob, you were my rock, and no words can explain how much I miss you already. Robert's greatest love was his family. He was so grateful that you guys were so close and you lived just down the road, and that he could spend so much time with you and the grandkids. It was his best. Boat trips up the river, fishing at the dam, briars, meeting at the beach, or even just chatting on the road at the farm. And of course, surfing with you, Guy, was so special to him. He used to say it's such a privilege to be invited by the Lighties to go out and catch some waves. He adored you all, and he loved Scotty, James, Charlie May, Jackson, and our new addition, little baby Stevie. He just said, she's so perfect. She's so perfect, this baby. Rob had a special way with children, no matter what age. He always made time for my grandkids, teaching the girls to surf in the Transkei and taking the boys bass fishing here at the dams. They loved being with you, and they admired your knowledge, your skills, and all your funny stories. The one about the round table. What's that, Lizzie? I won't remember that one. But thank you for all the love and support from both our families and all you special friends. I've had messages from far and wide. The love has been overwhelming, and I know that would be a great comfort to Rob. You are my light, my heart, and a gift of love that was taken away too soon. You'll never be forgotten, that simply cannot be. As long as I am living, I'll carry you with me. Safely tucked within my heart, your light will always shine. A glowing ember that never stilled throughout the end of time. No matter what the future brings or what may lie ahead, I know that you will walk with me along the path I tread. So rest, my darling Robert, be at peace, and let your soul fly free. One day I'll join your glorious flight for all eternity.
I found this incredibly hard to write and have tried a few times, but as I sit here staring and listening to the ocean, the place you love with all your heart, I find comfort that you are free and at total peace. Dad, Robert, Robbie, Bobs and Bobo. You started your life in Kenya in 1945, and sure did you have wild stories about Africa back then. Following wounded elephants through bush for days, wild cats living under your stilted house, and taking trains for 2 days to boarding school across the country because that was the only option. You loved Kenya and was always part of your heart, and we were lucky enough to go back there twice with you. You always used to say that you had the best of Africa, and even though you travelled around the world, Africa was always where your heart lay. After some unrest in Kenya, you moved to your folks in Durban. The grand space of the farm, you moved into a 19th floor flat apartment on Durban beachfront. And this is where your love for surfing started. You needed space, and you found it. You became one with the sea for the next 50 years. After finding a few different jobs, you always told me the story that you were passing a travel shop one day, and you proceeded to walk in, book a trip overseas, went home to your folks, and said you're off. I will forever be grateful for lots of your traits that I inherited. But traveling was a mutual love for us, and we would talk about it for hours and compare stories. Thank you. I mean, you hired a bus with a few others, and being the poorest in the team, you became the driver, as you stripped and converted it into a home, and proceeded to drive it for 9 months around the world, through Russia, Norway, and many more. Oftentimes you were stuck and you had to fish in the ice for food, or pick apples to eat. I mean, Robert, it was way back in the day. Dad had so many stories about traveling and loved to tell them to us at bedtime. Well, the kid-friendly version that is, as he wasn't much of a reader. I'm glad we only got the kid-friendly version though, because as the story goes, Dad went over there with blonde straight hair and came back with red curly hair. So unguys what happened in the unkid-friendly version. Eventually you came back to Africa to home and started farming, on horseback, nogal. See, way back in the day. After a while, Mom found you, and in your words, took you off the shelf, dusted you off, and that was after many attempts at getting a date. You married the love of your life in '79, and then had myself in tea. You were always the fun dad. At the time, you said your crayfishing skills improved drastically, as you could hold your breath for at least 4 minutes, because that was the exact amount of time it took to change my nappy. Children came with throwing you out of your comfort zone a lot. I used to wake up early every morning and go farming with you, as you taught me all the drivers' names, and I would chat away to them as you would sort the day's plans out. One particular morning, I had a whoopsie in my pants, and out of sheer panic, you took all my clothes off, put me in the middle of the sugarcane field, and high-pressure hosed me down, returning me naked to Mom, minus any resemblance of clothes. You clearly hadn't forgotten this trick, for as not long ago, I left Charlie, my 2-year-old daughter, with you, with an hour to go between Lulu and myself getting there. Much to my surprise, as I arrived at your house, Charlie was in the garden naked, being sprayed down by Dad and thinking it was the best game ever. What was spraying my bum as she giggled and ran around the garden? Can't teach an old guy new tricks, apparently. My parents had the most amazing bond that I'd ever seen, much to my distress, as they were a formidable team, and with my teenageness, I could never break them. They loved each other with all they had. They had some rough years, and all I could remember was how much Mom backed my dad wholeheartedly, no matter the biggest, most scary decision they made. T and I had the utmost privilege of watching and hopefully learning from the most real marriage we were lucky enough to witness. I remember a man once coming up to me and saying that he found it incredible how he had watched my dad over the years. In whatever scenario he was in, he never once put my mom down or moaned about her in public or what I saw in private. He said he found this incredible. Dad, you had so many hobbies, something his son has definitely inherited. Well, your love for sport, farming and the sea, just a few of them. You spend many happy hours on the squash court all over the North Coast, and many happier hunts in this very club. I can't even begin to tell you how much you have taught us about marriage, life and contentment. If we could be half the couple, an example that you were as a husband and a father, we'd be doing exceptionally well. I have never in my life, and I have seen you at your best and at your worst, and you've never wavered. You are the most consistent man I've ever met, and only when I think back do I realize that the quiet, calm-natured people like you are actually the pillar amongst us. The moment Mom passed away 14 years ago, the three of us took on a whole new challenge in life. We became the strongest team, and this is where I find it difficult. One of our legs have been taken away, and we will have to again navigate this new life without you. I take huge comfort in the fact that you and Mom are reunited, and as Mom said in a letter that she left us, that she is excited for the day she sees you again. When T and I think about our grandchildren, we get so heart-sore as you love them with your whole heart. Probably more than us, as they're way more fun. I'm so grateful that you got to meet Stevie Joan, your last grandchild, only 7 weeks ago. They loved you, and I will always have memories of them running up to you on Sinkwazi Beach, where you drop your ski and give them a massive hug. We will forever speak about you and Granny Maury as you live with Jesus and teach him all your funny sayings and the things you used to do. But more importantly, how much you loved. And I hope that they feel one day as much as T and I did from you. I'm also grateful you got to know your two other children, Dwayne and Bowles, the way you did. I know you panicked when you knew the tattooed guy was coming to ask for my hand in marriage. But a quick, yes, that's cool, let's have a Hansa, and you never look back. Dwayne, I know, because we talked about it, that he thought you were my perfect fit, and he couldn't be happier. Especially when he knew that you could take over all the DIY in his house. As well as having the same naughty sense of humor. Bowles, you were literally another daughter to him, and we have so many, many adventures together. I wonder how many times you've heard, oh, just another shit day in Africa, as we sip on a cold one in the middle of Africa somewhere, or staring at the sea in Mozambique, or on our Sinkwazi Beach afternoon. He loved you with all his heart, and he couldn't have been prouder of you. T, you couldn't have asked for a better serve partner, business partner, and best friend. He was astounded daily what you have been able to achieve in such a short time. He said you had balls of steel and you were going places. He was so proud of what you and Cooper have done for the business, but even more for the father that you are, and that being your greatest achievement. Margaret writes in her letter about please to always stick together. And pleased to be friends for the rest of our lives. Dad and I often used to say we think we made her proud, and you and I will continue to do this for the rest of ours. Granny Lulu, we have all had input what we'd like to say, and Chris will read it. But I myself would like to thank you for loving Dad like you did, and for fully accepting us as your family. Nothing will ever change that. You're Granny to our kids, and we'll make many, many memories more together. It's so weird because literally 2 months ago, Dad said to me one day that if he had to die today, he'd be totally at peace with that. He feels both his kids are happily married with their own families, and he believes he's done what he was supposed to do on earth, and that he would be okay to go. He wasn't scared of dying, he was just scared of how. And we couldn't have asked for a better how if we tried. If we had to have a contract to sign that this was his day, he wouldn't have hesitated. He would have signed it and surfed his last wave home. We will love you forever, Dad.
I think it's good. Mine's shorter. Jenna got the private school.
Robert, a month ago I sat at Jimbo's funeral with you, wondering how I was ever going to stand up and speak at yours. Well, here we are. We always said one day you just weren't going to make it out the ocean. And you would reply, that would be the best case. You wouldn't have wanted to go out any other way. I never imagined you old or bedridden. And I know that was a much greater fear for you than dying. You really did live every one of your 76 years to the full. There wasn't a message or phone call that I received that didn't make note of what a gentleman, kind man, or legend you were. Robert, this is a true testament to the man you were, to so many of us who had the privilege of knowing you. You have always been the quiet strength in our family, who welcomed everyone into our home with open arms, even though our home wasn't where we lived, but was where our family was. By the time I was 11, we had lived in 8 houses. But I never felt unsettled. Robert and my mom had the most amazing way of making everywhere we were feel like home. To this day, I have memories of you smelling of burnt cane and diesel, picking me up from school, going to Yusuf's to get a bar one and a fresh loaf of white bread, which would finish before we got home and you'd head back to work. Robert didn't eat anything extravagant in life. He didn't even eat for pleasure, rather because he had to. He would have been happy with a diet of white bread, butter, sugar, and a couple of hunches. He loved telling me the stories of racing cars back in the day, in as many that he blew 3 motors in, to later in the Chev Lumina on his way to pick us up from the Jordan Belito. Robert loved to do the pickup lift, as more often than not, on his way to Belito at 1 a.m., he was alone in souped-up Golf GTI looking for company to drop the clutch at the Voti toll. I consider myself blessed to have had the most amazing 12 years working with my dad. Often a father and son working relationship is the toughest, but ours just worked. You were so open-minded to any change, new project or idea we had. The amount of times Cooper and I heard you say, we tried that, it never worked back then, but things change. Or never venture, never gain. Well, Robert, we definitely had our fair share of venturing. I'm so glad you got to enjoy the fruits of your amazing hard work ethic. From finally getting to build our own dams on our own farms, even though you bailed a month and to travel up Africa again, leaving Cooper and I to wing it. To living in Sinkwazi, waking up, overlooking the ocean, or even just jumping into your cruiser to take a drive around the farms to check on the haulage and loading. I'll miss the random places we would bump into each other and end up chatting about pretty much the same stuff as the day before through our van windows. More than likely, how wet it was, or how much we needed rain. I'll never forget Scotty and James running up to you in the car park, giving you 2 huge hugs before we went to surf. They're always so happy when they saw you strolling down the beach to come and make sandcastles and play with them. Robert was the only person I knew that would be able to get out the ocean, put a shirt on, or jump into bed without rinsing off the salt. He was the epitome of a salty sea dog, and that is how we sent him off, in his beloved blue rash vest, boardies, and full of salt. But Robert was so happy for you and Dwangs, even though he couldn't pronounce Wichman. Thank you for being an amazing sister, friend, and aunt to our kids. We really are so lucky to be so close and have our families grow up together. Dwangs, you just fitted in straight off the bat. Thank you for all you do, for putting in myself. I couldn't ask for a better brother-in-law. Lou, you're family. I can't thank you enough for the massive effort you always put in with us and grandkids. Balls, I know you're doing the thank yous, but I just wanted to say the hugest thank you to you. You have such amazing qualities, so similar to Robert and my mom. Your kindness is comparable. We are so privileged to have so many family holidays with the buddies, making so many memories. Thank you for being so strong this week. You have been phenomenal, juggling a newborn, a house full of people, Badger, Scott Dog, and loving and supporting you. Robert was your other dad, and I'll do my best to make him proud as a father and a husband. I love you. Robert, if everyone in the world took any one page out of your book, the world would be a much better place. We'll miss you and do our best to live our lives to be as full of love and joy as you did.
Okay. So 5 minutes, 2 pages. Hold on to your brookies and boardies. We are on the home stretch now. Bertie, thank you for all your hard graft with the club and pulling everything together. Rich, for the sound equipment. Thank you to everyone for being here, for the amazing friendships, the love and the support. This is a hell of a village, and if Robbie was here, he'd be bloody overwhelmed at the attendance. Trying to single everyone out would honestly take days, and it's a cuck job because you don't want to miss anyone out. We have Hansa to drink and reminiscing to do, so everybody here. Thank you to everyone who travelled from far, for the calls, messages, voice notes, coffees, meals, plates of food for today, encouragement, and kind words. Most importantly, thank you to everybody for the part you played in making Robert's life so rad. Frida, for steering the ship. These oaks must have given you grey hairs, but I knew you were right for the job. The right person for the job when you cucked Cooper, Robert and T out for wearing their muddy gumboots in your office. Christopher, you are the most reliable human we know. Melanie, John, Mlungis, Spider, and all the rest of Robbie's loyal staff, thank you. Manny, my other husband, happy birthday. Sorry for forgetting. Besides for being our go-to IT guru, you are an irreplaceable part of our family. Let's get the bottle off. To my sissy and Ames, thank you for leaving your families for a whole week to come and be with us. You two are unbelievable, and this week could be an absolute hell without you. Smitty girl, Mons and Ons, for always holding down the fort, but especially for last Friday. We would have been totally blown without you there to take our babies. You kept them happy and feeling secure. Your love and support is unwavering. Chini and Spinny Boy, we will forever be grateful to the two of you for Friday evening. Our eyes close and our hearts palpitate when we think about how dedicated you were to bringing Robbie back to us. It was a hell of a traumatic experience to go through, but that special moment at the end, with all of us praying over him in the ambulance, will stick with us for life. We promised each other to live more like pups. More adventures, more chilling out, and so much more living in the now. I will be reminding us every year on the 5th of August to do just that. So much smart, sorry. Thank you for that beautiful prayer that you said that night, Smitty Boy. Because had it been up to the rest of us, Robbie would have been leaving this earth for what we're about to receive. May the Lord make us truly grateful. Granny Lou, you are one of a kind. We don't think Robbie would have made it this long without you. You have been by his side, supported him, and taken him to countless appointments to get stitched up by your honey due to some surfing injury. You built a beautiful, happy life with Bubs. You've loved him and you've loved all of us. And you will always be a part of this family, even if you thought this was your chance to get rid of us. Robert loved teasing me about marrying into royalty. When we went up Africa, he delighted in reminding me that I'd come along as the car guard. Anytime I was in the kitchen or fixing something that he had buggered up on his phone, he would say, "Bols, I'm here if you need any technical culinary assistance." He often panicked and forgot most people's names when walking into a crowd, but always covered up with, "How are we?" He was the world's worst public speaker. We once asked him to say words "Puts 30th," and I knew we were in for cuck when he started off with "Happy birthday, John." I mean, Jen. His spelling was horrendous too. Once replying to a picture we had sent him with cute. Q-U-O-O-T. He was a dad to me, and we were always laughing with and at each other when we were together. My go-to was reminding him that he was living on borrowed time, and shit did he prove me right. He would be laughing at that now. He had a very special friendship with my dad, Nyams. We've been going on dads and daughters holidays since we were 13 years old, and Robert spent many an hour pushing through 30 seconds with Nyams as his partner, shouting, "Come on, Robert, you know this one!" Which he did not. Robert did not know that one. Robert often mentioned that his kids were punching above their weight category with the people they married later on. He said that often. Dwayne, you were Robert's favourite little German, and he loved you stickers. We've never looked back from that very first Transkei holiday you came on when Yum said to put, I like this up, don't fuck this up. And the rest is history. Put and T, the biggest thank you to you for sharing your dad with us. I know he was proud of you. He would tell me all the time. He would say, yes, Jen is a tough cookie and she reminds me so much of more, which is one of the biggest compliments you could get in life. You've worked your arse off to grow your family, and we're all so proud of you. You are the best mate a person could ever dream of asking for. Loyal to a fault, head down when the chips are down kind of girl. You get your strength from your mom, and your cuck spelling from your dad. T, when he spoke about how well you and Cooper have done with the business, he beamed with pride. Cooper, I don't know where you are, sorry. He saw you as a son, and he spoke about the machine combo the two of you made. He would laugh, exposing those little milk-sharp teeth, saying, yes, you never know what those chaps are planning next. T, you're the ultimate hustler. Everything you touch turns to gold. And you're so like Bob's in the way that you're unafraid of giving it your all in life. I'm so proud to be your wife, and thank you for being the most phenomenal father and hubcap. Bob's loved you both, and would have done absolutely anything to make you happy. We are sad for our babies because we know what they are missing out on, especially Stevie only having 7 weeks with a bugger. But we will tell them all about him. His gentle but strong nature, his brilliant sense of humour, his unconditional love for all of us, his laugh, his buggered toes, his cuck hearing and his funny sayings, his wildly inappropriate nursery rhymes, his unbelievable sense of adventure, and his stability and consistency. And Robert felt like home.